The most powerful move you'll ever make is walking away so completely that they don't even get a chance to say goodbye. Let that sink in, because right now you think leaving means losing. You think if you don't explain, if you don't send that last message, if you don't demand closure, they'll forget you, that they'll move on like you never existed. But my friends, that's not what happens. They don't forget, they don't move on, and they sure as hell don't win. See, people expect drama, they expect a fight. They expect you to yell, to cry, to beg for an explanation. Because as long as you're reacting, they still have control. Your emotions feed their ego. But when you take all of that away, when you just vanish, no warning, no fight, no closure, that's when their mind becomes their own worst enemy. So before we go any further, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what's coming next is going to change the way you see human nature forever. Hey folks, imagine this. You walk into your favorite cafe, the one you've been going to for years. Same place, same drink, same table. But today, something's different. The decorations are gone, the music is unfamiliar, and the staff doesn't recognize you. It's like the place erased your existence. That's exactly what happens when you disappear without a trace. You don't just leave, you erase the role they thought they had in your life. That emptiness, that uncertainty, that's what keeps them awake at night. Here's the truth. People don't actually fear losing you. They fear losing the version of themselves that existed when they had you. They fear not knowing where they stand. They fear realizing that the control they thought they had was never real. That's why silence is so powerful. As long as they can predict you, they don't panic. But the second you disappear, the second they realize they have no idea what's going on inside your head, that's when their mind starts eating them alive. Ever notice how people don't start caring until you stop? How they don't check in until you disappear? How they only appreciate you when you're no longer there to appreciate? That's not love, my friends. That's ego. That's possession. That's their mind screaming, "Wait! I thought I had them figured out." But now they're scrolling through old messages, rereading conversations, replaying memories, searching for a clue, a sign, anything to explain why you just walked away. And let me tell you, nothing drives a person crazier than an unanswered question. You might be thinking, but if I don't explain myself, they'll never understand how much they hurt me. Let me ask you something. When they ignored your worth, when they played games, when they treated you like an option, did they explain themselves? Did they sit you down and say, "Hey, just so you know, I'm about to take you for granted"? No, they didn't. So why do you think they deserve a neat little speech now? They don't. Because people who truly care don't need an explanation, and the ones who do only want it to protect their ego. So today, you stop giving them that luxury. You stop making it easy. You stop feeding them answers, because when a person can't figure you out, they never stop thinking about you. And by the time they realize what they lost, you won't even care anymore. Now say it with me. I walk away in silence. Write it in the comments. Own it. Live it. And if you're ready to stop explaining, stop chasing, and start winning, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because this is just the beginning. Number 1, the move that breaks them is absolute silence. Disappearing isn't about leaving them behind. It's about making them chase ghosts. Most people think leaving means closure, that every ending needs a final conversation, a long-winded explanation, a dramatic goodbye. They think walking away only works if the other person understands why. But my friends, let me tell you the truth. Closure is a trap. It's not for you, it's for them. See, people don't actually want closure to heal. They want it so they can package you up in their mind, put a bow on the story, and walk away feeling in control. Because if they get an explanation, if they get a speech, if they get their answers, they get to be the one who ended it on their terms. But when you vanish, when you leave them without a single word, without a clue, without a chance to prepare, that's when their mind turns against them. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine walking into a room and suddenly the air shifts. The furniture is the same, the walls look unchanged, but something is missing. You can't put your finger on it, but the space feels wrong, and the harder you try to ignore it, the bigger it becomes. It starts gnawing at your mind. What changed? Why does it feel different? That's what happens when you disappear. At first they brush it off. They tell themselves they don't care. They pretend it's just another goodbye. But over time, the silence becomes louder than words ever could be. They don't just lose you, they lose the certainty they thought they had over you, and nothing breaks a person faster than realizing they no longer know where they stand. Because here's the truth, people don't fear losing you. They fear losing the control they had when they knew you would always be there. They fear the emptiness that creeps in when they can no longer predict your next move. And that's why silence isn't just absence, it's power. The moment you stop explaining, stop reacting, stop justifying, that's when their ego starts to break. Because the brain hates unanswered questions. And trust me, nothing drives a person crazier than a mystery they can't solve. You might be thinking, but if I don't say anything, won't they just forget about me? Let me ask you something. When they ignored your worth, when they treated you like an afterthought, when they pulled away without warning, did they sit around wondering if you were okay? Did they spend sleepless nights worrying about how much their actions hurt you? No, they didn't. So why are you now sitting here obsessing over whether they'll notice your absence? That's the lie society has fed you, that your worth is measured by how much someone chases you, that if they don't come back, you weren't important enough. But let me tell you something, you don't need to be chased. You don't need to be missed, because the second you start measuring your value by someone else's attention, you've already lost. So today, you make a different move. No messages, no explanations, no giving them the luxury of knowing where they stand. Because silence is not weakness, it is war. And trust me, nothing hits harder than the moment they go to reach for you and realize you're already gone. At first, they won't feel it. They'll convince themselves they got away with it. They'll laugh, they'll move on, they'll pretend you never mattered. But then, a quiet day will come, a moment of stillness, a second where their world slows down, and suddenly your absence will hit them like a train. Not because they loved you, not because they suddenly realized your worth, but because now they're drowning in their own ego, trying to figure out why they don't feel as powerful as they once did. Because, my friends, they never actually valued you. They valued what having you made them feel about themselves. And now they have to face a terrifying truth. They weren't as in control as they thought. See, people don't crave love, they crave certainty. They don't fear losing you, they fear losing the reflection of themselves they saw in you. And when that reflection disappears, when the mirror is gone, they don't even recognize themselves anymore. That's the real power of silence, not to punish them, not to make them regret, but to finally free yourself. Because I won't lie to you, this won't be easy. Your mind will scream at you to break the silence, to send that one last message, to check if they've noticed. But let me tell you something, your power is in not knowing if they care, not knowing if they're struggling, not knowing if they finally see your worth. Because the second you stop needing their validation, that's the second you become untouchable. So now, my friends, it's time to make a choice. You can keep waiting, keep wondering, keep hoping that one day they'll wake up and realize what they lost, or you can disappear. Not to teach them a lesson, not to manipulate their emotions, but because you finally understand your own value. And trust me, by the time they realize what happened, you won't even care anymore. Now say it with me. My silence is my power. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done explaining, done proving, done waiting. And if you're ready to take back your power, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me because this is just the beginning. Number 2, no warning, no goodbye, just an empty space where you used to be. The loudest statement is the one never made. Imagine this. You walk into your favorite cafe, the one you've been going to for years, same table, same drink, same routine. But today something is off. The decorations are gone, the music is different, and the staff doesn't recognize you. The familiar warmth you once felt is gone. It's like the place erased your existence. And no matter how much you tell yourself it doesn't matter, no matter how much you try to brush it off, the feeling lingers. Because that's what happens when something that was once certain suddenly disappears. That's exactly what happens when you walk away without a word. See, most people expect an ending, a confrontation, a dramatic goodbye. They want something, because as long as there's an explanation, they can process it. They can make sense of it. They can find a way to put themselves at the center of the story. But when you just vanish, they don't get that luxury, and that's what eats away at them, because now they don't just lose you, they lose the version of themselves they thought they had with you. They don't miss you, they miss the certainty you gave them. They miss knowing exactly where they stood. They miss the comfort of assuming you would always be there. And now they're left in an empty space, reaching for something that no longer exists. That's why silence is the most powerful thing you'll ever give them. Because as long as you're explaining, arguing, proving your point, they don't feel the loss. They feel in control. They can tell themselves, I must have meant something. Look how emotional they are. But the second you stop, the second you remove yourself entirely, that's when they start to feel it. Because people don't actually fear losing you. They fear losing the power they had over you. And when they go to reach for you, only to realize there's nothing left to grab, that's when the panic sets in. At first, they convince themselves it doesn't matter. They'll tell themselves you were never that important, that they saw this coming, that they don't even care. But time is cruel. One day they'll go looking for the version of themselves they used to be when they had you, the version that felt secure, validated, and in control, and they won't find it, because you took it with you when you left. And that's when the regret creeps in. Not because they love you, not because they respect you, but because they no longer recognize themselves without the reflection you once gave them. And I know what you're thinking. But if I don't say anything, won't they just forget about me? Let me tell you something. The mind doesn't forget what it can't understand. It forgets the things that make sense, the things it can close the book on. But an open ending, an unanswered question, that sticks, that lingers, that haunts. And one day, maybe in a week, maybe in a year, they'll be sitting in silence, scrolling through old conversations, replaying old memories, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. And they'll never get an answer. Trust me, nothing destroys a person more than realizing they no longer have access to you. Because what they once took for granted is now just an empty space where you used to be. And that space, that silence, that will never leave them. I won't lie to you. This won't be easy. Your mind will tell you to reach out, to check if they've noticed, to say one last thing. But the most powerful thing you'll ever do is nothing. Because silence isn't giving up. It's taking back your power. And by the time they realize what they lost, you won't even care anymore. Now say it with me. I am the absence they will never replace. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world. And if you're ready to take back your power, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me because this is just the beginning. Number 3, they expect you to break, but you won't. The strongest move you can make is no move at all. Let that sink in, because right now you think they fear losing you. You think they'll wake up one day, realize what they lost, and come running back, desperate to fix everything. But my friends, that's not what they fear. They don't fear losing you. They fear losing their grip on you. They fear not knowing. See, as long as they can predict your next move, they stay comfortable. They assume you'll always be there, waiting, ready to respond, ready to explain. They assume that if they ignore you today, you'll come chasing tomorrow. But the second you disappear, the second you stop playing the game, that's when the panic sets in. Because now they don't know where they stand, and that's what really scares them. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine a gambler who always wins. No matter how recklessly they play, the house keeps rewarding them. They bet carelessly, knowing the next win is guaranteed. But one day they walk in, place a bet, and the dealer is gone. No cards, no dice, no game to play. And suddenly, they're not a winner anymore. They're just a fool sitting at an empty table. That's exactly what happens when you stop reacting. Because people don't actually want love. They want control. They want to know that they can pull away, hurt you, take you for granted, and you'll still be there. But when they push and nothing happens, when they expect a reaction and they're met with silence, that's when their mind becomes their own worst enemy. And trust me, my friends, that's when they start to break. Ever notice how people don't start caring until you stop? How they don't check in until you disappear? How they only appreciate you when you're no longer there to appreciate? That's not love. That's ego. That's possession. That's their mind screaming, "Wait, I thought I had them figured out." But now they're staring at their phone, scrolling through old messages, trying to figure out where they went wrong. And let me tell you, nothing drives a person crazier than an unanswered question. You might be thinking, but if I don't say something, they'll never know how much they hurt me. Let me ask you something. When they ignored your worth, when they played games, when they left you confused and second-guessing yourself, did they explain themselves? Did they sit you down and say, "Hey, just so you know, I'm about to take you for granted and make you question your own value"? No, they didn't. So why do you think they deserve an explanation now? They don't. Because people who truly care don't need a warning, and the ones who do only want it to protect their own ego. So today, you stop making it easy. You stop feeding them answers. You stop giving them the luxury of knowing where they stand. Because when a person can't figure you out, they never stop thinking about you. And by the time they realize what they lost, you won't even care anymore. I know this won't be easy. Your mind will scream at you to break the silence, to check in, to send one last message to make sure they know how much they messed up. But let me tell you something. Your power is in not knowing. Not knowing if they care, not knowing if they're struggling, not knowing if they finally see your worth. Because the second you stop needing their validation, that's the second you become untouchable. So now, my friends, it's time to make a choice. You can keep waiting, keep wondering, keep hoping that one day they'll wake up and realize what they lost. Or you can disappear, not to teach them a lesson, not to make them regret, but to finally take back your own power. Now say it with me. I walk away in silence. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done explaining, done proving, done waiting. Number 4, the mind can't let go of an unsolved mystery. You don't miss a person, you miss the certainty they gave you. Let that sink in, because right now you think they miss you, that they sit around staring at their phone, regretting everything, that one day they'll wake up and finally understand what they lost. But my friends, that's not what's happening. They don't miss you, they miss the control. See, the human mind hates unanswered questions. It craves patterns, predictability, a sense of control. That's why people don't obsess over what's right in front of them. They obsess over what they can't understand. Hey folks, imagine this. You're doing a puzzle. You've got all the pieces laid out, everything coming together, and then just before you finish, you realize one piece is missing, and suddenly, that's all you can think about. You don't care about the 100 other pieces you've placed perfectly. You don't care about the beautiful image forming on the table. All you care about is the gap, because now the puzzle is incomplete. It doesn't make sense, and your mind won't let it go. That's exactly what happens when you leave without a word. At first, they brush it off. They tell themselves you'll come back, that this is just another phase, another game, another moment that will pass. But as the silence grows, so does the obsession. Because now, they're left with a story that doesn't make sense. They scroll through old messages, replay old conversations, searching for clues, trying to find the exact moment when things shifted, looking for a reason, something, anything that explains why you just vanished. But there is no reason. There is no final conversation, no closure, no explanation neatly tying things together. And that drives them insane, because the more time passes, the worse it gets. At first they think they've figured you out, that they still hold power, that they know exactly how this will play out. But as the days turn into weeks, as the silence refuses to break, as they realize they actually have no idea what's going on inside your head, that's when the panic sets in. That's when the questions start creeping in. Did I ever really know them? Were they ever who I thought they were? Or was I just fooling myself? And once a person starts questioning their own reality, it's game over. Because now it's not just about missing you, it's about doubting themselves. See, when someone takes you for granted, they convince themselves they have you figured out, that you're predictable, that no matter what happens, you'll react exactly the way they expect. But when you disappear without a single word, you break that illusion. And now, they don't just wonder where you are, they wonder if they ever knew you at all. Because the truth is, people don't actually want love. They want certainty. They want to know where they stand. They want to feel in control. But when you disappear without a trace, when you don't give them an ending, when they don't get to be the hero of the story, they spiral. Because you didn't just leave, you left a gap in their mind. And no matter how much they try to move on, no matter how many distractions they chase, that gap stays. Because unfinished business lingers. And the worst part? They will never ever get their answer. Because, my friends, you are done explaining. You are done proving. You are done waiting for someone to realize what they lost. And by the time they understand, you'll be too far ahead for them to ever reach you again. Now say it with me. I am the mystery they'll never solve. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you are done being predictable. Number 5. The void that can't be filled. People don't miss what's gone. They miss what they can't have. At first, they'll pretend they're fine. They'll act unbothered, indifferent, maybe even relieved. They'll convince themselves that your absence doesn't matter, that they're better off, that they won. They'll laugh louder, post more, surround themselves with distractions. But here's the truth, my friends. It's all an act. Because the real loss doesn't hit right away. It creeps in slowly, quietly, like a shadow that follows them everywhere they go. And then one day it happens. A cold day comes, a moment of weakness, a second where they need comfort, validation, certainty, and they reach for you. But you're no longer there. And that's when it hits them. Not all at once, not dramatically, but like a slow-burning emptiness that never fully goes away, because now they realize they can't replace you. Hey folks, imagine this. You've got a favorite jacket. You never think much about it. It's just there in your closet, always waiting for you. You don't appreciate it. You don't even notice it most days. But then one freezing night you reach for it, and it's gone. At first you shrug it off. You grab something else. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. But then the cold sets in, and suddenly you feel it. The absence, the discomfort, the regret of taking it for granted. That's exactly what happens when you disappear. At first they won't notice. They'll carry on like nothing changed. They'll assume you're still an option, that you're still somewhere in the background, waiting, watching, hoping for them to return. But then a moment will come, a night when they feel alone, a day when they don't feel as powerful as they once did, a second where they crave the certainty of knowing you're still within reach. And when they realize you're truly gone, that's when the void begins to swallow them whole. Because here's what they never understood. You weren't just a person in their life. You were a presence, a source of warmth, a source of stability, a source of energy they never even realized they were feeding off. And now, that energy is gone. They'll try to replace it. They'll reach for distractions. They'll find someone new, thinking that a new person means a fresh start. But it won't work because you weren't just anyone. You weren't replaceable. And deep down, they'll know it. See, people don't actually regret losing you. They regret realizing they'll never have you again. They regret the hole they can't fill, the silence they can't escape, the absence that lingers, growing heavier with time. Because time, it doesn't heal that kind of emptiness. It makes it worse. At first, they assume you'll come back, that any day now, you'll break, you'll reach out, you'll give them the comfort of knowing they still have a place in your world. But as the days turn into weeks, the weeks into months, the truth starts creeping in. They lost you, not temporarily, not as part of a game, but for good. And trust me, my friends, that realization will haunt them in ways you'll never see. Because the human mind doesn't crave what it already has. It craves what it can't have. And now you are the one thing they can never touch again. You might be thinking, but what if they really don't care? What if they really do move on? Let me tell you something. People don't move on from what was real. They might pretend. They might push it down. They might fill their life with noise, hoping to drown out the silence you left behind. But late at night, in the moments when no one's watching, they'll feel it. Because the truth is, they didn't actually lose you. They lost the version of themselves they got to be when they had you. And that's what they'll never get back. But you won't even notice. Because by the time they feel the loss, by the time they start questioning everything, by the time they reach for you only to find nothing but empty air, you'll already be gone. That's the power of walking away without looking back. That's the power of silence. That's the power of becoming unreachable. So now, my friends, it's time to make a choice. You can keep waiting, keep checking, keep hoping they wake up one day and realize what they lost, or you can disappear, not to punish them, not to make them suffer, but to finally take back your own power. Now say it with me. I am the void they will never fill. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you are done waiting, done hoping, done being replaceable. Number 6. The one who walks away first wins. You don't win by proving your worth. You win by making them realize they never deserved it. Let that sink in, because right now you think walking away is about getting a reaction. That if you leave, if you disappear, if you stay silent, eventually they'll notice, they'll regret, they'll come crawling back, begging for another chance. But my friends, that's not how you win. See, most people walk away for the wrong reason. They don't leave to heal, they leave to be chased. They think silence is a strategy, a way to make the other person miss them, suffer, realize what they lost. But that's still a game, and as long as you're playing it, you're still losing. Because the truth is, you don't win when they miss you. You win when you don't care if they do. Imagine this. Imagine a street performer juggling for a crowd. Every time he throws the balls in the air, people watch, mesmerized. They react, they engage, they clap. Now imagine the crowd disappears. No one is watching, no one is reacting, no one cares. Suddenly, the performance means nothing. The power wasn't in his act. The power was in the audience. That's exactly how control works in relationships. As long as you're watching, reacting, hoping, they still hold power. But the moment you turn away, the moment you stop waiting, their entire game collapses. Because here's the truth. People don't regret losing you. They regret realizing they never actually had you the way they thought they did. And that realization, that's what eats away at them. You might be thinking, but if I walk away and they never come back, doesn't that mean I never mattered? No, because the real question isn't whether they come back. It's whether you still care if they do. The second you stop checking, the second you stop hoping, the second their regret becomes meaningless to you, that's the second you win. Because here's what no one tells you. People don't want love. They want control. They want to know that no matter what happens, they still have access to you. They want to believe that you're still waiting, still checking, still hoping. But when they go to reach for you, when they send that, "Hey, how have you been?" message, when they test the waters and you're just gone, that's when they panic. Not because they love you, not because they suddenly value you, but because they don't know where they stand anymore. And people fear uncertainty more than they fear loss. Ever notice how they don't care when they know you're suffering, when they can predict you'll come back, when they're sure you still want them? But the moment they sense you've moved on, the moment they feel you slipping away for good, that's when they start losing sleep. Not because they want you, but because they need to feel in control. But by then, it's too late. Because the version of you that once waited, that once cared, that once needed closure, that version of you is gone. And that's why the one who walks away first always wins. Because they don't get to frame the story anymore. They don't get to be the one who decides how this ends. They don't get to be the one who moves on first. And trust me, nothing haunts a person more than knowing they lost you, and there's nothing they can do about it. I won't lie to you. This won't be easy. Your mind will tell you to check their profile, to send one last message, to test if they still care. Don't. Because the strongest move you can make is no move at all. So now, my friends, it's time to make a choice. You can keep waiting, keep hoping, keep wondering if they'll regret it, or you can walk away, not to make them miss you, not to get revenge, but because you finally understand your own worth. And trust me, by the time they realize what happened, you won't even care anymore. Now say it with me. I am untouchable. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world. Number 7, no closure, no explanation, just disappear. You don't owe them an ending. You owe yourself a new beginning. Let that sink in, because right now you think you need to explain yourself. You think you need to make them understand that if you just say the right words, if you just lay it all out, if you just give them one last chance to see what they lost, they'll finally get it. But my friends, let me tell you something. They won't. They never do. See, closure is a lie. It's not for you. It's for them. It's so they can sleep at night, knowing exactly where they stand. It's so they can wrap up the story in their mind, put a neat little bow on it, and tell themselves a version of events where they still had control. Because if they get an explanation, if they get that final conversation, if they get to see you emotional, vulnerable, searching for understanding, then they win. Not because they deserve to, not because they were right, but because they get to walk away feeling like they had the last word. And that's why you take it away from them. No closure, no goodbye, no explanation. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine watching a movie. A gripping story full of twists and turns. You're invested. You're waiting for the ending that ties everything together, the big reveal, the moment of truth. And then right before the final scene, the screen goes black. No resolution, no answers, no closure. You sit there staring at the screen, frustrated, confused, unable to move on. Because your mind needs an ending. It needs to make sense of what just happened. And when it doesn't get one, it never stops searching. That's exactly what happens when you disappear without a word. At first, they won't feel it. They'll convince themselves they don't care. They'll tell their friends, "Yeah, it's whatever. I don't even think about them." But then, the silence starts to creep in. They'll check their phone, scroll through old messages, wonder why you haven't reached out. And the more time passes, the more that unanswered question begins to haunt them. Why didn't they say anything? Did they ever even care? Were they stronger than I thought? And the worst question of all, did I actually lose them for good? Because here's the truth. People don't regret losing you. They regret realizing they never actually had you the way they thought they did. And when they can't get inside your head, when they don't know how you feel, that's when they start losing control. See, people don't fear losing love. They fear losing certainty. They fear realizing that the power they thought they had was never real. And when you walk away without an explanation, when you disappear so completely that they have no idea what you're thinking, that's when their ego starts to break. And I know what some of you are thinking, but if I don't say something, won't they just move on? Let me ask you this. When they ignored your feelings, when they made you question your worth, when they treated you like an option, did they explain themselves? Did they sit you down and say, "Hey, just so you know, I'm about to make you feel like you don't matter"? No, they didn't. So why do you think they deserve that luxury now? They don't. Because people who truly care don't need an explanation, and the ones who do only want it to protect their own ego. So today, you take back your power. No more waiting for them to wake up. No more hoping they'll regret it. No more feeding their ego by wondering if they miss you, because the truth is, by the time they realize what happened, you won't even care anymore. I won't lie to you, this won't be easy. Your mind will beg you to check in, to send one last message, to see if they've noticed your absence. But let me tell you something, your power isn't in knowing if they miss you. Your power is in not needing to know. Because the moment you stop seeking validation, the moment you stop craving a reaction, that's the moment you win. So now, my friends, it's time to make a choice. You can keep waiting, keep explaining, keep hoping that one day they'll wake up and realize what they lost, or you can disappear, not to punish them, not to make them chase, but because you finally understand your own value. Now say it with me. I am the absence they will never replace. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world. Number 8. When they try to come back, you do nothing. The most powerful response is no response at all. Here's the truth. They will come back, not because they love you, not because they've changed, not because they suddenly realized your worth. They'll come back because they need their control back. See, people don't just walk away from something they once controlled. They don't just accept that the person who once hung on their every word, who once gave them endless chances, is suddenly untouchable. So they reach, not in a grand dramatic way, not with an apology that actually means something, but with calculated precision. A "Hey, how have you been?" message, a reaction to your story, a sudden like on an old post, subtle but intentional, because they're not coming back for you. They're coming back to see if they still have access, and if you give them even a fraction of your energy, if you acknowledge them even slightly, you lose. Because the second you respond, the second you react, they win. I still have power over them. That's what they'll tell themselves. That you were waiting, that you still care, that No matter how much time has passed, they still have a hold on you. But when they reach out and get nothing, no reply, no reaction, no sign that you even noticed, that's when the panic sets in. Because now they don't know where they stand, and nothing destroys a person's ego faster than uncertainty. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine a fisherman who's been throwing bait into the water, catching fish effortlessly, time and time again. Every single time the fish bite. It's predictable, it's easy. But one day he casts his line and nothing bites. He throws another, still nothing. He waits, convinced the fish will come back, that it's just a matter of time. But the water stays silent, and suddenly he's not in control anymore. That's exactly what happens when you don't respond. They were so used to you taking the bait, so used to you reacting, so used to knowing exactly how to pull you back in. But now the rules have changed. At first, they won't panic. They'll tell themselves you're just trying to act strong, that eventually you'll cave. But as the days pass, as their messages sit unanswered, as their ego takes hit after hit, that's when they start to break. Why aren't they responding? Did they move on? Are they seeing someone else? Did they ever even care about me? And trust me, my friends, those thoughts will eat them alive. Because here's what they never expected. They never expected you to be stronger than them. They thought they had you figured out, thought they could walk away and come back whenever they wanted, and you'd still be standing right where they left you. But now they don't know a damn thing, and that terrifies them. You might be tempted to reply to prove that you don't care, to hit them back with something cold, something detached, something that says, "You mean nothing to me." But the second you do, you hand them the control they lost. Because a response, any response, tells them one thing: I still have an effect on you. And that's all they need. That tiny bit of validation is enough to reignite their ego. So what do you do instead? Nothing. You let them reach. Let them wonder. Let them break under the weight of their own questions. And you move forward like they never existed. Because they don't deserve closure. They don't deserve an ending. They don't even deserve a response. I won't lie to you. This won't be easy. You'll feel the pull, the urge to say something, the need to prove that you're the one in control now. But let me ask you, why do you need to prove anything? Because the truth is, you don't. Your silence says everything they need to know, that you're not waiting, that you're not interested, that you're already gone. And trust me, by the time they realize what happened, you won't even care anymore. And that, my friends, is how you win, not by proving your worth, not by seeking closure, not by waiting for them to wake up and realize what they lost. You win by letting go, by refusing to play their game, by walking away so completely that by the time they even think of coming back, you're already gone. Because true power isn't about making them miss you. It's about reaching a place where it no longer matters if they do. So from this moment forward, you choose yourself. See you in the next video.